This is KGW News at noon.
Today we have continuing coverage of the fallout from this summer's historic heat wave. It killed dozens of people in Multnomah County alone. Hello everyone, I'm Brenda Braxton. Today, attorneys filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the owners of an independent senior living facility alleging negligence, elder abuse, and wrongful death after an 81-year-old woman was found dead in June. KGW's Alma McCarty spoke with Charlotte Iverson's son, who's heartbroken over her death.
My mom was a very outgoing, personable personality, very colorful. Everybody, everywhere she went, she made friends. She accepted everybody. Very musically talented.
Royce Iverson cherished his visits with his mother, Charlotte, hoping to make as many memories as they could, her dementia worsening. Every 5 weeks, he'd fly in from Texas to visit her, picking her up from her senior living community, The Heights at Columbia Knoll in Northeast Portland.
As soon as I would arrive, we either did overnight trips or we did day trips all the time and headed straight for Dutch Brothers, and then out on the road. That's where she was really happy, in the car.
When he wasn't physically there, Iverson said he was just a phone call or text away. He and his attorney, Kristen McCall, said the lines of communication were open until they weren't.
If she didn't write the rent check in the right way, they would call him. If her meals started to build up in the apartment, they called him. If she didn't go down to the community to eat her meals, they called him. But when she was overheating for days on end in her apartment with no proper ventilation or air conditioning, they didn't call him. And she died? That's what really struck me.
The newly filed $13 million lawsuit alleges the independent senior living community's negligence led to Charlotte Iverson's death during the record-breaking heat wave this June. The suit argues the Heights failed to ensure she was safe from overheating. When the building's air conditioning failed, the ventilation in her fourth-floor room became insufficient and the heat unbearable. The lawsuit also alleges the complex failed to warn Charlotte Iverson about the threat to her safety or notify her son about the insufficient cooling in her apartment, given the predicted heat wave. According to the lawsuit, on June 28th, police found the 81-year-old dead inside her apartment from hyperthermia, kneeling near her bed as if in prayer.
The horrible thing about it that has been so difficult is the medical examiner told me how much my mom suffered. She said it was a pretty excruciating death, and it was very difficult that my mom died alone.
Where there is wrongdoing, neglect, or abuse, those cases should be brought to seek accountability where responsibility failed.
In Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
And we did reach out to the Heights for comment on this lawsuit, but we haven't heard back yet.
Where we're watching disputes solved on the streets with guns without a care in the world for who else is being impacted.
And one of those impacted was 18-year-old Michaela Harris. She was shot and killed in downtown Portland back in July, and 6 other people were hurt. It's just one of the record-breaking number of killings in the Rose City. Authorities believe that Michaela was the unintended victim of a gang-related shooting. Now the FBI is offering up to $25,000 for information about her death. Michaela's mom is also asking for help. In a statement, Felicia Martinez wrote, "I know someone out there knows who did this." She asked them to do the right thing to make sure the people responsible are held accountable. She said, quote, "We deserve closure, and Michaela, who had her innocent life taken, deserves justice." Again, police are asking anyone with information to step forward. A night of destruction in downtown Portland caused $500,000 in damage. Police say it took the vandals just 10 minutes to damage at least 35 businesses and buildings. This happened Tuesday night after a memorial for an activist killed in 2019. Crews spent yesterday replacing or boarding up broken windows. They'll also have to remove graffiti. Police haven't made any arrests yet. The vandals targeted the Bank of America building where Posey's Salon is located. The owner said his business wasn't damaged, but he's frustrated with the city.
City commissioners are not doing a job because everyone wants to play nice. No one wants to be tough and play the bad guy. I think we have a bunch of people that have their own agendas that are not here to run the city in the best interest of the people that work here and live here. It seems to me like it's gotten nowhere and nothing has gotten done.
Before the vandalism, the group was holding a memorial for activist Sean Kelleher, who died 2 years ago when an SUV hit him in Northeast Portland. No arrests have been made in that case.
So instead of saying what's wrong with the people and how can the people change so that the system doesn't damage them, you have to figure out how to shift the system. This doesn't go around the other way around.
Today, we're continuing the conversation on social justice and change in Portland on what would have been George Floyd's 48th birthday. Bahia Overton, who you just heard from there, leads the Black Parent Initiative. It's a group helping families by connecting them with community resources. Overton says there's a long history of displacing families when their neighborhoods are gentrified. That puts them at risk. And over time, she says people lose their sense of community.
Systemically, we have completely pillaged this community, so much so that the youth have lost hope in many ways of ever having a sense of normalcy and community again. If there's no hope for community, if there's no hope for people to show that they care for me and they love me, then why should I care and love anyone else?
Overton says the Black Parent Initiative is holding a symposium coming up in January. They'll talk about ways to create a stronger community. The Salem-Keizer School Board voted to adopt an anti-racism resolution. It calls for the district to acknowledge racism and white supremacy as threats to students and employees. There was a fair amount of pushback during the meeting earlier this week. Some said the resolution unfairly targets white students and residents. Those who support the resolution said it was a first step and the bare minimum in representing the community. Board members also addressed the need to clarify the language.
I ask board members and community members to please stop pushing racial divide and start pushing community. We are all Oregonians and we are all Americans.
I think a lot of us are coming at it from like this graduate level sociological understanding that we're like in this on a regular basis and we're not coming down and speaking in terms that the community at large can understand.
Supporters of the resolution also want to know why more kids of color are suspended or end up in special education classes. They're asking the district to look into the data and then report back with an answer. The Portland City Council approved a new program to cut down on the number of non-emergency calls firefighters have to respond to. It's called the CHAT program. That stands for Community Health, Assess, and Treat. Instead of sending large teams in of firefighters and paramedics, 911 operators can send 2 fire medics to those lower level health calls. Officials hope to roll out this program by mid-November.